Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Sprint Ride Option Podcast.
Oh my goodness, we are live. It is a new episode of the Sprint Ride Option Podcast. I am Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by my good friend Jason Aponte. And Jason, this podcast has a little bit of a different feel because baseball is all the way back, and the Yankee fan you are, as he's drinking. You see how we do that? The Yankee Cup. How's your opening weekend of baseball for you, Jason?
Pretty fun, 2-1. I mean, but when you ground into three double plays, leave 11 people on base, you still feel like you had an opportunity to sweep the bum-ass Red Sox. But hey, it is what it is. It'll be a lot. There's 159 more games to go. Is the good news.
Hey, it was a good little weekend for the Yankees, a good little weekend for the Giants. But that's not why we are here today. We're here to talk San Francisco 49ers football. Really, April's the most exciting time of the year. Come this new for football, all that fun stuff. Draft coming up, all that. And if you're lucky, you have a franchise player maybe having contract disputes that could result in a trade. We don't know. We don't really know what's going on. This is where I get tricky with it, right? Is this the big news? Is it just the big rumor? What is it, Jay? Let's start with that. What is the I almost said the Jason Aponte situation? What is the Deebo Samuel situation, Jason Aponte?
Nothing. Deebo Samuel's partying in Miami with Lil Baby and other rappers. I mean, we'll talk about what's going on, but I mean, as you can tell from the tone of my voice, it's because I'm not really feeling too well, but I'm really not as worried as anybody is about this. This is just one stop in contract negotiations, and 49er fans should know full well what this entails. It literally happened with George Kittle. It literally happened with free agent guy who wasn't under contract, Trent Williams, and brought back the last minute. Relax, guys. It's April, but I'll get into it a little bit further after that.
Yeah, so right now the situation is Deebo Samuel rightfully looking for his contract extension that it seems like every receiver in the NFL is getting right now, including Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, names that probably will come up again at some point on the podcast. And the Niners, they tend to be a little stingy on these types of negotiations, right? And I know, Jason, you mentioned Trent Williams and George Kittle. Another name that might come up as well is DeForest Buckner. We saw what happened there. But you're right. I do see this closer to a Trent Williams. And I just said his name and I totally forgot. Why am I forgetting the guys? George Kittle. There we go. I don't know why. It's April football, man, right? Listen, it's still way too early to be really any type of worried about the situation. But what would 49ers Twitter be without a little bit of worrying 24/7? If it wasn't Jimmy Garoppolo, which by the way, we're not going to say that name until something changes for a bit. But right now the worry seems to be what Deebo Samuel's value is in either a trade or within the ideas of a contract extension. So where do you value Deebo Samuel, Jason? Just because of who he is, he had his one very good year, but he had two, years with injury. Swan Song, thank you for becoming a member of the Spicy Squad. I got that down. What do you personally value, Mr. Samuel, in terms of what the Niners should give, what he should be looking for, and what the Niners could maybe get in terms of a trade?
Well, I mean, he's very valuable. As you can see, he was the engine for the offense, and literally the guy that every time he needed a big play, it was him. And I don't think that there's something that, you can put an arbitrary number on, but there is a market game to it. All of these guys are getting paid. All of the contemporaries in his draft class are also up to get paid as well, too. So it kind of behooves the 49ers to move a little bit faster before someone else, say Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, one of those guys get something, and then he can comparably show, hey, listen, I was in the same draft class as them, and that'll be another negotiating point. But for me, when you look at some of I think the Stephon Diggs one kind of muddies the waters a little bit more because he got $70 million guaranteed, and I think that's the number that's really stuck, is going to be hung up on. When it comes to Stephon Diggs, if Stephon Diggs was 70, it's Tyreek Hill with 52. And surprisingly, Devontae Adams only got $22 million upfront guaranteed, which is a little bit of shock for me, especially because I considered him to be the number one wide receiver in the game. So it's just going to come down to timing, what those other deals look like, where the 49ers want to meet. If it's to clear Tyreek Hill, who's at 52 and a half, 54 million doesn't sound too bad. 70 million is where you're going to start to get into a problem. And I have no idea what's going on in negotiating tactics or what's being put on the table or anything like that. So if that's what Deebo wants, then I'm not going to tell him not to get it. I'm just saying that that's where things will get a little bit hairy. But you have to remember all this stuff about his Instagram being gone, all this social media stuff. It's all negotiating tactics. This is just the way things are done. And I want to point to something. Forget the Kyler Murray's thing, because Kyler Murray's pictures, all of a sudden, they came right back, which for whoever doesn't know how to use Instagram, you can archive a photo and bring it back. Like, that doesn't mean you deleted it. Okay, guys? So I wouldn't worry about that. Similar to when you have a fight with your girlfriend, you want to get her mad. I take all the pictures down of you and her, of you and I, and now you look at it and you're mad about something else, and I got you mad and moved it away. And then you know what? You make up the next week and everything's back. But in terms of this, how did Odell Beckham get out of Cleveland? Did he outright request a trade? No, his father posted something to social media, which forced the organization's hand. This is a different time that we're talking about. So for people to sit there and act like, well, he's being a baby. No, this is how things are done when there's 20-something-year-olds involved and it's a new age of technology. So right now, what you can say is you're a little concerned because things are not going well and they haven't started well. That's obvious, right? That he's upset about something. Either they came in with a number that he didn't like, and that's fine. He can be upset. But that doesn't mean that it's all done. And that's the problem, I think, is more than anything. You can still in one hand say, hey, something, I'm concerned about this because something obviously didn't go right, and still say, I eventually think they're going to get it done, which I do eventually think they're going to get it done.
Yeah, and I think you make the point of social media and all that. Yeah, I think it's time where we look at the social media type stuff, the removing of pictures and all that. It really goes into the idea of it means nothing until it means something, right? And I say that a lot, but to me, man, deleting the photos, archiving or whatever, it doesn't indicate anything. I don't think it magically means Deebo wants out of San Francisco. I don't think it means he doesn't believe what he's going to get is what he gets. It's still very early in this process, right? It's the first time they've been able to negotiate, because I believe you have to wait till after 3 years to be able to negotiate a deal. You have what, 4 final year plus a 5th-year option. So I mean, hypothetically, this could drag into next season. Who knows? And how quick it gets done. And the tricky thing is how do you pay Deebo Samuel, right? Because he said that the rumor is that I saw on Friday, I believe, that he wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Which, if
a Dallas Cowboys beat reporter, by the way, is the one reporter.
There you go. So that's what we have. Keep that in the back of your mind, right? So if that's the case, you know, how do you decide what Deebo Samuel gets? And Peter King today in his weekly article, I believe it's called Monday Morning Quarterback, he kind of touched on that. I'm just going to read the blurb he wrote, just the whole blurb. I'll give you guys the idea. Peter King said, I think the 49ers are going to be in a quandary if Deebo Samuel insists on getting paid top of his market and getting paid now. They might not be able to do that. Yes, I saw what he did over the last half a season. Samuel was the MVP of a Final Four team in the playoffs. But his average receiving season over the past 2 years, 55 catches, 989 yards, is dwarfed, for instance, by Diggs' average over the past 2 seasons. And this is in comparison to the Stephon Diggs extension that Jason mentioned earlier, which was 115, 13, 80 yards. Even when adding the run game impact, the stats are iffy. But Samuel has to be thinking, if they're going to ask me to take the beating a running back takes while asking me to be the deep threat for a playoff team, that's something you don't measure in stats. Dealing with Samuel is going to be is going to test the will and negotiating skill of general manager John Lynch. So there's where that is. And thank you, Jesse. No 5th-year option on a 2nd-year player. Appreciate that. We love Jesse, big stats guy. So that's really where Deebo Samuel is how do you pay this type of player? And I don't think it should automatically be, well, I do a little bit of everything, therefore I should be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, because that's, I mean, Devontae Adams should be the highest paid receiver in the NFL just because he is the best, right? Just because Deebo Samuel does a little more, I don't think it necessarily makes him more worth it to the Niners. But in Deebo Samuel's mind, he's absolutely correct. Because, like, Jason, I don't think you and I need to repeat it, but you and I are both very pro, like, players should get what they deserve, and Deebo does deserve that amount, right? He deserves for what he did in 2021 and everything he did for the 49ers offense. The Niners should be backing up a Brinks truck, but I also understand the Niners being very hesitant to give him that type of deal if the Cowboys reported number was true. I definitely see the Niners' hesitancy to give him that type of deal as well.
Well, the other thing is too is what I think a lot of people are hung up on is they're hung up on the annual average
Mm-hmm.
salary, and it's about the cap hit more than anything. If the 49ers can find a way to make it work with whatever way that they can do with their loopholes, I mean, you guys love Parag, right? And you love him for being a wizard. Well, there's a way for him to help him get his guaranteed money upfront a little bit without it being such a big cap hit. And I think it's more the cap hit that you should be worried about than the actual number, because no one knows what those numbers actually mean.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, when someone sees Von Miller signing for that exorbitant amount of money, everyone loses their mind. What are you talking about? Yeah, that's not guaranteed. He has to play this much. You have to wait for contract details to come out. You never know how it is actually formatted across the years. So it's less about what's the number and more about what's the number he can take while it being a good cap hit number, and both finding a way to meet in the middle. Again, it started off bad this way with Kittle. His agent talked about the first offer. I believe he described it as the St. Valentine's Day massacre, it meaning pretty much the 49ers came in much lower than they ever thought. And then all sorts of, explorations were made with what to do next. They got a deal done. Trent Williams was moments from signing with the Chiefs. Kyle Shanahan calls down and stops that and signs with the Niners. And Fred Warner got paid. And the only person, and this is the only thing that I'm going to say that I guess people are scarred by, is the DeForest Buckner thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you look at positional value, what he was looking at, how the 49ers intended to actually replace that, when you look at it, the 49ers were still a top 5 defense this year without DeForest Buckner. 2020, it was the entire team was injured. So does that necessarily look as bad as you think it is, especially if Javon Kinlaw comes out and plays this year? So again, it's very early on. I understand the Buckner thing is right there where you guys are a little bit nervous about that. Understand that completely, but it's still too early. It's April, and things tend to get rolling in terms of extensions later on, closer to camp. And again, there's something else that needs to fall that is not in the way right now. I just want to say that man's contract is not in the way. That other man's contract is not in the way. But then you have to figure out what's going on with Deebo and Bosa, and who do you prioritize? I think that's the bigger discussion, is who's the bigger priority and who would you prioritize between Deebo and Bosa if you had to pick one? And I probably have an unpopular answer, and I think it's Bosa.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't disagree. To me, I've always seen wide receiver as a luxury position. I've always been a big believer of building inside out. You start with your offensive, your defensive line, and go from there. I that's why when the Niners with the Giants, you remember a couple years ago with the Giants trying to trade Odell Beckham, right? And the Niners were in on, I believe I was a Buckner and whoever for Beckham, and I wasn't for it because the Niners weren't a wide receiver away, and the team that got Odell Beckham was the Browns, also weren't a wide receiver away, and you see kind of how far that's set them back. And Odell Beckham, fantastic player, and Jason, you mentioned the contracts. Wait to see how they're structured instead of the AAV, the average annual value. And you mentioned the Von Miller. I had his contract up, just so you get the idea. Their first report came out, 6 years, $120 million. Oh my God, what are the Bills doing? Nobody circles the wagons like them. You wait till the structure comes out. His cap hit in 2022 is 5.5 or 5.1 million. Very, very easy, doable for them, right? 2023 goes up to 18.7. 2024 goes up to 21.2. But then after the third year, there's a third year out where the dead cap is $7 million. So it's essentially a 3-year. Every NFL contract is a 2 to 3 year deal. No matter how you break it down, no matter how many years, how many zeros you want to add, every NFL contract is going to be a 2 or 3 year deal. So yeah, with the Deebo Samuel situation, it's and I know people don't like that the Niners do it, but it really is kind of smart negotiation tactic. You come in with a low offer because that's what the Niners are in the business for. The Niners are in the business of saving money, so they're going to go to a low end offer. Deebo is in the business of he's trying to make money, so he's going to go to the high end. And now you got to hope that at some point they meet in the middle, right? And I think that's going to happen. This is the first 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever it may be, of a process that's going to go through August at the bare minimum. So listen, man, I get it. We love our rumors. That's why the he who shall not be named at quarterback thing is carried on for so long, is because we see the name, we pick it up, we want to talk about it. This is another one of them where everybody sees Deebo wants his contract. Deebo didn't get his contract right away. Um, and it creates a mass panic. And hey, what does 49ers Twitter do better than anybody else? A little bit of that mass panic.
Yeah. 49ers Twitter for real this time. Calmate, please. Oh my God. My goodness gracious. I mean, look, for everybody who is all freaked out, listen, concerned and freaked out are two different words. See the word concerned over here and freaked out? Not the same thing. You can be concerned without freaking out. You can't be freaking out at this point because there's nothing to freak out about. What you can be concerned about is that this hasn't started off the right way, but this is the 49ers MO. Just like the Browns' MO is to whoever it is that they signed to an extension, and this is actually a long list. They did it with Garrett, they did it with Watson, they've done it with a few other people. Is first year, you don't get that much money up front. Like you get maybe $1 million, and then that's how you spread your money out. Everybody has their system. This just unfortunately is the way the 49ers are when it comes to open negotiating, is to insult the player and then hope that everything's going to be fine later on. So, yeah, I mean, this is a tried and true repeat. I mean, it's so weird when you watch them and you watch the way that they give money to people like Jerick McKinnon, Quan Alexander, and Malcolm Smith early on, Pierre Garçon early on in this regime. And then you kind of see the hesitance and the change from all of those things because those guys were deemed as fits and they wanted them so bad. So now let's kind of tread a little bit lightly when it comes to that, in the same way that those guys were never going to be impact guys like the way that we just mentioned with all of these people. It's just funny to see that maybe they've taken their foot off the gas pedal a little because they've been burned by so many guys that they thought were going to be good, even though those contracts were structured similarly to these contracts in terms of you get your money up front and then everything's year to year, which is the way that a lot of teams do it, to be honest. So just calm down, 49ers Twitter, man. Like, I understand there's nothing really to talk about, even though there's like a whole draft to talk about with prospects and guys that you can like actually look at. I mean, but hey, who wants to talk about that when you can worry about what's going on social media with Deebo Samuel? And none of you guys are talking about the most important part, and that's the fact that the best football offensive weapon in the game and the best rapper right now in the game are taking pictures together. And I think that is actually way more electric than any sort of football discussion you guys have been having around this entire situation.
What did I miss? What was that last part there? The best offensive mind. And so I'm assuming Kyle Shanahan.
The best offensive weapon.
Best offensive weapon. Okay. Oh, okay. I thought you said best offensive mind. He taking pictures of people? This is what I miss.
No, I mean Little Baby. and Deebo
There it
Samuel, two goats at the top of their game right now. And they want to get paid for their abilities, and that's it. And why wouldn't they?
You went a little over my head there, but we're back. We got all the way back. We're caught up. I now know what you were saying. Tripped up a little bit there. Yeah. So do you have any last second Deebo Samuel thoughts before we get to the small the moves tonight? I'm not gonna say small. The moves the Niners made today. You have any last minute thoughts on the Deebo Samuel situation before we wrap it up?
Yeah, Deebo's not a diva.
No.
His team is working social media. He's a 26-year-old young man who that's how they usually use social media when things don't go their way. They're pretty pissed off, even if this is part of the strategy, because guess what it's got everyone doing? Yelling, pay Deebo Samuel and putting things on social media. So it's all a negotiation tactic right now. I think it's nothing until it's something, like Andrew says all the time. Just calm down. I was like, I promise if you guys look a little bit deeper, there's way more things that have to do with football that are much more worth your attention than what's going on right now with Deebo Samuel, except for the part about him and Little Baby. That's the part that you guys are missing the most, and I really don't understand that one.
Obviously, I'm missing it because I didn't see it until you said it. So there really is. It's going to be something that'll be on the back of our mind, but probably not something that's talked about. Kind of like the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, right, Jason? Probably not going to be talked about until there's some finite movement, not just these rumors or whispers. Yeah, but as Jason said, let's calm down a little bit. Nothing to worry about yet. Deebo Samuel is going to be on the Niners most likely come September week 1. Speaking of the receiver position, the 49ers announced a couple of signings today. They signed Marcus Johnson, who played with the Eagles, Colts, and Titans. They also signed Malik Turner, who I saw was with the Cowboys. They also did a procedural move. They released defensive lineman Maurice Hurst before re-signing him to the same deal they signed him to last year. So there's the two or the three moves the Niners made today. Jason, just your quick thoughts on those.
Special teams, special teams, special teams. It sounds like I think that that's exactly what they've been prioritizing. Marcus Johnson has experience. So does the other gentleman's name. Well, I
Malik
forget it.
Turner.
Malik Turner. Yeah, I mean he's shifty with the ball in his hands. I kind of want to bring up this stat real quick and to show you why the 49ers need. I mean, we obviously know the special teams wasn't their strongest unit, but they were 20th in the league in punt return average, 8.2 yards per, and 18.9 per on kickoff, which was good for 28th best in the league. Yes, something they absolutely need to fix, and they need to bring in as many options as possible so they can finally hit on one, which does not include people that they can bring in the draft. But Ray McLeod, Johnson, Turner, all those versatile guys, one of them has to be the answer. And also, when you factor in Burks, this is obviously something the 49ers went into the offseason wanting to attack. I know these aren't the splashy moves people want, but when you look at the defense, and there's still plenty of guys to be had out there in free agency, and the 49ers still haven't cleared enough space away so they can sign their draft picks, it's clear that they have a goal in mind on special teams is to fix that, and they've been doing that. So I don't really think that has anything to do with the lack of money or anything like that. I just think that there's moves to still be made. But right now, these aren't the splashiest of moves, but it's clear that the 49ers wanted to fix this, got a new coordinator, made sure that they've got some weapons in terms of being able to return the ball in different ways. And one of those guys would be able to catch on as fast, hopefully sooner than later. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then the last time the Niners really had a great return man, probably Ted Ginn. I remember Allen Rosen was there for a minute, but he was never great with the Niners. So it's definitely been an issue. And you mentioned the Turner and Johnson signings with Ray McLeod to help special teams. That also, Oren Burks and Odom as well. They were signed for special teams. It's obvious the Niners. Everybody was talking about what are they going to do at corner. Well, obviously they address corner. What are they going to do at edge? What are they going to do at offensive line? It's obvious that the Niners saw that special teams was their biggest need, and they decided with what they have in terms of money, whether Garoppolo or not, they're going to fix special teams, and it is an important aspect of the game. I mean, if you look at, I can think of one game off the top of my head that special teams for sure flipped, and that was the Seattle game, right? Seattle, they had a few special teams mistakes that caused them to lose. And you talk about the game in Green Bay. It took a team who was worse at special teams than them for special teams really to shine. So it's good that the Niners are at least addressing this issue. Obviously, it's not the sexiest, it's not the biggest splash moves. Nobody wants to talk about. I'll put it like this: we don't open this podcast talking about special teams moves, but they are important. They're the boring things that nobody wants to talk about. But in theory, the Niners should be better at special teams, and that's something that could help. Maybe the defense is about the same. I know losing Tartt's going to be a big loss. But in an offense, if Trey Lance is what you hope he is, the offense should be fine. So they looked at it and said, what do we need to fix? Special teams being the biggest one. Jay Daddy, we appreciate the comment. Kyle's first two drafts, he addressed the trenches with top picks. With McGlinchey being iffy, I'm sold they're going right tackle at 61. They'll probably add an edge sometime later. And yeah, that's a good one too, because I guess maybe the reason Jason brought this up is there's a picture. Am I going the right way? The picture
Absolutely.
of Mike McGlinchey,
Yep.
looking pretty good. He's actually looks, you know what? I'll say it. He looks really good. Unfortunately, he is an offensive lineman in the NFL, and people expect him to have a little more muscle, a little more weight on him. And I'll try and spin it positively before Jason, says his piece. It's still April, plenty of time to get in game playing shape. I know he looked very thin, very small there. The man is coming off of a surgery, a very tough surgery. I keep hearing about the calf being ripped off the bone, how tough that is to come back from. So this is me being more optimistic, and maybe, who knows? Do we know? Have we seen exactly when that picture was taken? Is that a recent photo? Do we know for sure?
I think
it's just a photo.
I think it is. I don't know when it is, but I think that it seems like it's recent. I'll tell you this: I'm less concerned with the way that his weight is, and more concerned that that injury is not healing up the right way. And the 49ers not saying anything about it unless they're being asked, and never really giving any updates about it isn't really giving me a lot of confidence. So I mean, I don't know if the 49ers go right tackle at 61. That seems like a reach, J Daddy. I think they do address it though, and I think they have to. There's guys in this draft to do it. I know I see in here somebody said Jalen Moore could play right tackle. He got largely whipped when he got sent out there. The difference between left tackle and right tackle is not the same. And I mean, maybe he can improve. I think they would bet on McKivitz probably to do that. But I mean, at this point, I think I'm more worried about what you're going to be paying Mike McGlinchey, and he might not be able to play. And then you add in the draft capital. The slim thing, it doesn't really matter. He doesn't have to be bulked up right now in April. He has to be bulked up in time for camp, and he has to be bulked up in time. I'm more worried about the injury less than his weight.
Yeah, and that's obvious. I think that's everybody's concern because you and I were both big McGlinchey guys. We like him when he's on the field. We think he's pretty good. But if he can't stay healthy, I mean, it's really it's a big concern because with the rest of the line, you feel like you almost could make up an answer. Left tackle, you obviously have Trent Williams. Left guard, you say we could tell ourselves, hey, Aaron Banks, he could play left guard. Center, you got Alex Mack, seems he's coming back. You could easily say, hey, Brunskill, that's the easy answer. Right guard, he played right guard last year. Do that again. Right tackle is where it gets really fuzzy. Jalen Moore, he was iffy when he did get his chance. Tom Compton, he's in Denver. He was fine until he wasn't. The right tackle is going to be a very interesting situation for the 49ers because there's not really any answer at this point that you can. If Mike McGlinchey doesn't go, who's the right tackle? And nobody knows that. And that's it's slowly turned into the biggest concern of this offseason.
Or the one that nobody's talking about at this point. I mean, just because the Deebo stuff, I mean, it probably takes a backseat to even Bosa's extension, which nobody's talking about at this point. It's just that at least here's what I'll say. Here's your positive. At least it's not Trey Lance's blind. It's not his blind spot. So he'll be able to at least see things coming.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good thing. His blind spot's protected by the best offensive tackle of our generation, of our lifetime, most likely, maybe in NFL history. Who knows? So yeah, he's very protected there. It's really scary because Mike McGlinchey is a player that I had hopes for. You had hopes for a guy we've defended on this podcast plenty of times. So obviously, the Niners are hoping he comes back because the Niners are a better team with him than without him. And as we said, man, like it's April 11th. They don't have a first round pick. There is no obvious answer for that right tackle spot right now, and that's probably, as Jason said, it's getting swept under the rug a little bit because there's a million other things that's always going on in 49ers world. This should probably be one of the more concerning ones, but it isn't because it's an offensive line position that people don't like to talk about, and it's also not a fun where can you trade him type conversation because if he's not healthy, you're not trading him anywhere. And if he's not healthy and you're paying him, it's also not a good thing for you. It is a concerning situation, but hey, it's nothing to be too concerned of as of April. I almost said August. It'd be so much more concerning in August. But on April 11th, it's nothing to be concerned about yet. We haven't even seen what they look like on the field. We'll get those answers come June, July, and August, and hopefully the answers are better than what they feel like right now.
Yeah, and then they have a whole draft to figure it out. There's a lot of impact players still out there. Maybe not your tier 1, tier 2 guys. I mean, but there are some very good football players that are free agents out there as well. So the 49ers have to know what's on their plans and what's going on. I hope they have a firm grasp of his timetable, what's going to be happening, because right tackle is so important, especially with how well the 49ers ran the football to the right end with Mike McGlinchey and with Tom Compton, and that's going to be a big part of this offense. So yes, it's a big concern, and it probably is the question mark and the topic that nobody's really speaking about because they're all wrapped up in the Deebo stuff. They're still wrapped up with what's going on with the quarterback. They're still wrapped up with maybe what's going on with Bosa or why this team hasn't necessarily made more splash free agent moves. The large portion of this roster is coming back, and that includes Mike McGlinchey. So if that's not shored up, and you're starting from scratch or you're starting with somebody who has limited experience, that's going to be a bit of a concern going forward. So, yeah, I mean, hey, look, it's still April 11th, but it's still something I feel like nobody is really talking about because everybody's wrapped up in the Deebo stuff.
Do you have any other last second things? I mean, that's really all we had today, right? Do you have anything you want to get off your chest?
No. I
That,
mean,
that, that was that felt like me setting you up for something. It was not. That was just the way I asked that
yeah,
question.
yeah. No. It's just been good to take some steps back a little bit, take a little bit of a step back from social media because people are
Mhm.
arguing about that. And it's just, at this point, you don't have to announce to people that you're taking a break from Twitter. You can just take a break from Twitter and not just
That's
go or anything like that. So
That's very much what I've done as well. It's baseball. Usually when baseball season starts, that's when the football content slows down a little bit because we got some baseball teams we enjoy to watch. I saw a thing. John Carlos had one hit under 100 miles per hour this season. He hits the ball very hard. Daryl, thank you for the
so good.
donation.
Uh-huh.
Off topic. What will happen when the Niners get ready to trade or release Jimmy Garoppolo? Then he decides to get his thumb surgery. I think we're past the thumb, right? I don't think I think if the shoulder had to get surgery, we would have heard about the thumb by now. So I don't think necessarily that's something we're gonna have to worry about, Daryl. And I don't think that's gonna be a worry for the Niners.
Yeah, I think he's avoided the injury largely, but the 49ers, regardless, if he can't pass a physical, whether it's the thumb or the shoulder, they'll be on the hook for $7.5 million. And if someone gives him more than $7.5 million, then they make that back. Meaning, if you cut him and he fails a physical, then you owe him 7.5. But if you cut him, he fails a physical and signs with a team, even with that failed physical, and they give him more than 7.5, then you're not on the hook for that, if I'm remembering that correctly. So as of right now, I don't think there's anything going on with the thumb. And that thumb surgery would be for whatever nice team he's going to be playing for next year.
Yeah, so there's that. There's a Jimmy talk that we all enjoy and have fun with. But that's gonna be it. A nice quick episode today. We like it. Jason, I gotta send some text to set up a draft episode, which
Yes.
we will be having. The NFL draft is coming up in a couple of weeks here. It's it's a little less exciting to talk about when your team doesn't have the third overall pick in the draft, let alone a first round pick as a whole. But we promise draft content's coming. It's a couple names you guys will be familiar with, ideally, because we got to reach out to some people. Why hasn't Ward been extended yet? That's a good question. Well, we'll wrap up with this question, Jason. I'll let you take it.
Yeah, before we answer this question, anybody that's watching this video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and join the Spicy Squad as Swanson did here, which will allow you to join in on the call-in shows, which we're going to get back to this week since, I'm a little bit off of a hiatus and stuff. But, yeah, why hasn't Ward been extended yet? J-Daddy, I think more than anything, the 49ers have a certain amount of moves that they can make. That would be Ward, that would be Armstead, that would be restructuring some other guys and things like that. And I think they're waiting for push come to shove before they do that and not tipping their hand in any way for something else. I mean, at this point, I just think that they don't necessarily need the space right now. They're only going to do it until it's time. And I think that's going to happen right before the draft when they have to actually sign all of their people. Or it's not at the draft, right? Like you can draft your players and then sign them later on. So it doesn't necessarily have to be then, but you're going to see it after the draft. So.
You just gave me a great idea. I think that's what the draft should be. I think one pick, and then they go right into the negotiating room. We get to see all the angles, them talking, negotiating how the contract works. That could be a really fun idea. We'll pitch that to the USFL. It seems like they're
I was going
trying
to say,
out.
why wouldn't the XFL do it?
Yeah, like I saw the USFL. I saw a video. They have the microchips in the football, so there's no measuring sticks. It's like the science, the algorithm. We'll call it the algorithm. The algorithm tells us it's the first down or not. So we'll pitch that idea to the USFL or the XFL and see if we could do that. Jason, listen, man. I know all these people know us for football talk, all that fun stuff. Very excited baseball's back. Very excited to be able to text you about baseball whenever I want. It's an exciting time. I'm watching the Yankees right now.
I'll tell you if I'm excited about baseball.
Oh, you're not. It's still 2-0.
I hate baseball. It's a fake sport,
baseball?
and it's the worst sport in the world.
Fake sport, terrible. We hate it. Giants play the Padres tonight. Should be fun. I think that's all I have. Jason said it earlier. If you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel or join the Spicy Squad. I don't know what you're doing. Great content. Jason and I talk football here a lot. Jason talks a lot of football here all the time on this beautiful channel. So if you haven't done that, do that now. And if you have not subscribed to this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful podcast on Apple, on Spotify, on Google, wherever you get your podcasts at, go do that as well, because we like it. We like to see you guys. And we think you're all cool. And this is a cool podcast. We love to do it. So we love your support. So Jason Aponte, I guess that leaves us with the final question of the day. It's not even a question. It's a statement. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners.
Jesse, you've never been more wrong in your life.
And baseball sucks. Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.